Zach Plesac is obviously going to be the worst pitcher ever, and Mike Caprice is going to win MVP, and he is going to turn to Aaron Judge because that's how things work the first 2 days of spring training, right? This is Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Guardians. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Jeff and Justin. You can figure out who is who. We want to thank you for being part of the Locked On Guardians team and checking us out. We have you covered, your team covered every day. I also want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen, wherever it is you get podcasts. And we have the third co-host, the Mad Smacker, is hanging out down here as well. So if you're watching on YouTube, just keep your eyes peeled. Who knows what's coming? Speaking of things that are coming up or have been in the past, we did want to give some quick alerts that Justin and I are in demand. Just in case you didn't know, we are
oh boy,
people on the wanted. I don't know. I'm giving this up. I was on 97.1 The Shark, I believe, on Sundays. 97.1 The Fan with the Shark, Mark Howell. That's going to be a semi-regular segment. If you listen to it in the fall, you heard me hop on there a few times. I'm going to be even more interactive with him. He's letting me pick some ideas and throw to him. Talking a little bit about Ohio State as well as the Cleveland Guardians will be the main focus, but you can hear me down there on the radio. Justin's had multiple appearances, though. Speaking of in demand.
I was on last week with the Big Play Reflog show. That was a lot of fun. Was in studio with those guys, chopping it up. Those guys were hilarious and just a really comfortable vibe down at the Burke Lake Run Airport. Airport. Really nice little vibe there. And then Friday I was on with the guys over at the Ultra Cleveland Sports Show, and hope to be on in studio with both of them at some point throughout the year.
Yes. They are, when we go into our little metrics, some behind baseball, if you look at like the 20 shows that our fans most watch, it's all Ultimate Cleveland Sports shows. So we know that is already a place that many of you are watching. So
appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you. And appreciate that. Those who watch both. So let's talk a little bit. Baseball is back. I stood up with my promise. I didn't watch any of spring training because I hate it with fiery passion of 1,000 Suns. It is not for me. It's not real baseball. It is what this is modified.
How dare you?
It is not.
How dare
it is
you?
Not real baseball. This is modified workouts. This is guys getting in shape. It's working on pitches. It's nothing about it is anything other than you are watching them do jazzercise and aerobicize, but against another team. This is just guys working out right now. And the other co-host down here does not agree with me. She's with you.
That's right.
But we got to see some players perform, and it was
Work up a sweat.
Yep. And sorry, no, she's doing the growl now. I'm gonna get smacked any moment now. Apparently something about this camera brings out the worst of my cat. But
she's smacking you for not liking spring training baseball. That is what it's for. How dare you?
100% what it is.
I turned the TV on at 3:00 both days. I got my grocery shopping done on Saturday in the morning because I wanted to be home in time to turn the game on. There is something very comforting. This is one of the reasons I like baseball in general. There is something very comforting at 1:05, at 6:05, at 7:05, 3:05, whatever it is. The baseball's on TV. You turn your TV on, although for some people not so much. We can address that at some point, but you're supposed to be able to turn your TV on, and baseball's supposed to be there. There is something very comforting about that schedule, and that's why I always enjoy. So, having me able to just turn the TV on and watch baseball at 3:00 or 1:00 is always welcome here. Just saying.
Yes. So it was a relatively quiet weekend for baseball in general, but one of the things, of course, was like the fact that a game ended due to the pitch clock and some of the chaos around baseball. An interesting take on all of this is that I'm sorry, I'm just totally going to get smacked here. It's just a matter of time.
She's looking. She's
staring. It's a dead-on look.
Yeah.
That Cleveland has an advantage because they are so super young. It's like outside of maybe like 5 guys on this projected 26-man roster, everyone else came up through the minors with pitch clocks, with not necessarily, I'm sure they tested out bigger bases in the minors. I don't really remember it, But with a lot of these things already in place, so in a way, Cleveland has an advantage. Most of their guys have been through this. I think it could actually be a huge advantage for them moving forward. It felt like it wasn't that chaotic, but we did have the big story with, was it like Boston and Atlanta, where a game ended due to the pitch clock, which, then generate all sorts of stuff. My hot take is, again, I think the new rules are going to benefit the Guardians. One, they're used to pitch clocks, and two, this is a young team built for speed, and the new rules are all about speed.
Yeah, I'm not really all that worried. I'm trying to look up something here real quick too for pitching at some point, but I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. You thought the Boston player who had the game end on the pitch clock thing. I think by the end of the year, I know some people are upset about it now. I don't think it'll be that big of a year or big of a deal by the end of the year. People will settle in. I didn't even notice this that much in Cleveland and the minor leagues last year at any point. Like, there were some pitchers who are like, yeah, don't really love this or had to get used to it. It'll be fine. When these guys get used to this kind of stuff every day, I would imagine by like May or June, people are not going to notice the difference. In the minor leagues, other than the games ending a little bit faster, I didn't notice the difference in quality or anything else, and it'll be just fine. I think you're right. Cleveland maybe has an advantage because a lot of these guys have played in AAA over the last year, like Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez and like Shane Bieber and some of those other guys, have not played in the minors in the last year or so. So it might be tougher for them. I think the guys that you think would make the most sense, that would have the hardest time with it, are going to be the two guys we've talked about. Is James Karinchak, who we'll talk about.
But he has done a pitch clock for what, like 3 years now in the minors? Parts of?
Yeah, I mean, he's had rehab time, things like that.
But even like in Double-A, he had the pitch clock in Double-A during his breakout year. Like, it was already.
Did he?
That was in Double-A.
There? Wow.
Yeah, because I was there, so I remember that.
Okay. Wow.
I could say I had my exposure to the pitch clock with him down there. Because I remember talking to someone and like, he's very idiosyncratic. He has a very distinct approach, which true statements.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit too. The other guy surprised me too. I never thought about this, but Emmanuel Clase, 22 seconds between pitches last year. That is 26 slowest in baseball last season. So he is only a couple seconds faster than 22, a couple seconds faster than James Karinchak. James Karinchak was 22.8 and Clase, 22.8. So they're the same. You don't think of Emmanuel Clase as a guy that takes a lot of time to throw a pitch, do you?
No.
Yeah, well, he was as slow as
99's got the moving pieces. So you tend to think he takes forever.
Right. So actually, they were equal last year. Yeah. So surprisingly, Clase takes a long time. And here's the only issue with that is, and I'm going to bring up another point too that I saw about this in a second, but this is, some of those guys do that because it's an injury thing. Like, you get more time between pitches, not to slow the game down, but to be able to give yourself the ability to throw as hard as you can, right? Like, you want to go out there and build yourself back up and take advantage of your strength and blow it all out for an inning as a reliever, especially. So that's one reason to take it long between pitches. So we'll see what the effect of that is on Clase. I also saw an interesting comment from Kyle Tucker from the Astros. So the pitchers are the best in the world, and you're giving them more of an advantage because you have to rush them. You have to rush in the box, and it takes away some of your thought process that goes into hitting. I didn't think about it from a hitter standpoint. I kind of thought as a hitter it might be better, but Kyle Tucker seems to think that it takes hitters out of their rhythm in terms of being able to hit and think they're in a bat. I would think that, well, I guess everybody's different. What was the Bull Durham line? Don't think it's bad for the ball club. Hitters having less to think about during a bat and just reacting, you think might be a good thing. But some hitters are saying they don't necessarily like being rushed into their at bats. But I thought it was going to be more of an advantage for pitchers overall. Well, I guess we'll see. But it was an interesting thought.
Definitely. We will get into these games here in a moment. I know you're saying you didn't watch them. How are you going to get into them? Oh, we'll still get into them. Justin watched all of them. I
took one for the team. I watched everything.
I did some box score stuff. I also kind of have some general spring training thoughts. No one actually weighed in on our thoughts. I will say that from Friday's show. But we will get into that after we talk about my dear friends over at BuiltBar.com. And it's not just an ad read. These are dear friends. And I say that because this is one of the few companies that I have allowed to send me text alerts for when a new item comes. I love Built Bar. I'm not big on protein bars, but this is the one I go to. This is the one that I use, the one that I order, the one that I enjoy. Right now, I do recommend the Grasshopper cookie from their limited supply. And sometimes, like right now, when they have 15% off the website, you can then get an additional 15% off when you remember that promo code LOCK15. And if you're like, well, I don't really want to wait and deal with shipping and handling, go to Sam's Club, go to Walmart, go to the pharmacy section, and buy yourself some Built Bars. You won't regret it. I have yet to have anyone contact me angry about having tried some Built Bars over the years. I have had friends and family that turns out were already eating Built Bar because they'd found them on their own. So go to BuiltBar.com today, use the promo code LOCK15, or head to Sam's Club or Walmart. You won't regret it. BuiltBar.com. It'll make your tummy happy.
All right. Well, I told Jeff I took one for the team, and I watched every inning of the first two spring training games for the Guardians. I even watched some other spring training games. I watched some college baseball. I had baseball on my TV all weekend long, and it was a very pleasant experience. So for those of you who didn't have the chance to watch, or if you're having TV issues like a lot of other people are too, or worry about that kind of stuff.
Or if you're like me and you have little ones and it's like leaving the TV
Yeah.
on, it's just, a family choice we make to not have it on with multiple kids under 5.
I did it for everybody. I did it for the good of the team, really. I didn't want to do it, but I did because I think everybody needed someone to do it for them. So I took time out of my day to do it. So first takeaway here, don't overreact. Don't be that guy. Everybody's going to say Zach Plesac is the worst starter ever, and he's carrying it over from last year. He still stinks, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. If you are going to overreact to one spring training start, 6 months or 4 months, however long it's been since the last time the guy made a start or whoever. And this goes both ways. If the guy goes out there and throws, 2 perfect innings, and maybe if he has two immaculate innings, he throws, 18 pitches, 18 strikes, and looks great. Don't take that for anything either. It's spring training. Just enjoy baseball being back on TV and enjoy the stupid things that come along with spring training, like weird stories and weird things happening and seeing random prospects or guys you didn't even know. Like, I was watching the game today. I didn't know Clint Frazier was on the Rangers. Had no idea. I keep up with baseball pretty closely. Did not know Clint Frazier's on the Rangers. So that was
Don't
cool.
worry, he won't be long.
By the way, Jeff, it's been 10 years since Clint Frazier was Cleveland's 5th overall pick in 2013. 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, almost.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Almost 10 years.
It's going on, yeah.
It's that was a crazy draft too, just to get off topic, but because that's the last big splash in free agency. So they gave up a pick for Bourne and a pick for Swisher, and then came back with Dice Kime, and a weird draft. Draft.
I tweeted that today, and someone asked me, goes, who else was taken in that draft? I looked
Kyle
at the board.
Crockett and Adam.
Well, he meant in the first round, and I went back and I was like, well,
JP
there was
Crawford, Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I said there's Hunter Renfroe. There was somebody else. There's Chris Bryant was ahead of them, and I said, oh, there was this guy named Aaron Judge who went later in the first round with the pick that Cleveland they got from Cleveland, not from Cleveland, but because Cleveland signed Nick Swisher.
Now, at the same time, what I will say is this: I had Aaron Judge 21st on my board that year, I believe, and I was far and away the highest on him. This isn't as a bragging point. My analysis was like, if you could find my big board, it was like 4 sentences. This was in my early days. Well, I mean, the next year I had a national gig, but it was not, when I'm getting paid to write. It was still a hobby position. And I put him there because he had good performance, but everyone was afraid of his size. But nobody thought. I mean, the Yankees didn't even. They had 3 first-rounders that year. I think Eric Jagalo, the third baseman from Notre Dame, they took 1 pick before.
I think he's coaching now.
Yeah, who they flipped in the Chapman deal, and then Ian Clark, who then it came out with had been a Yankee hater. I mean, you can't get mad about that. They were rumored to be all over Colin Moran, and it wasn't so much they're rumored to be all over him as much as no one believed they would go prep again. They had been so conservative. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, it could be worse. Boston took Trey Ball, and that is far and away the first pick in the first round. That's the one that went.
Well, really I told the guy too. I said, the Clint Frazier pick may not have worked out for Clint Frazier, but it worked out for Cleveland because they were able to swap him for Andrew Miller. So that worked out for them. However,
it's
a roundabout way.
And if they had drafted Austin Meadows, who's the other prep guy to consider, it's Meadows has had 1.5 good years, 2 good years. It's not like he's been a dynamo.
Right. Yeah. So could have gone worse. The other
Yes.
reaction from spring training was, okay, so you saw other clubs had a couple of pitch clock violations, and people are like, "Oh, the pitch clock's so invasive," and we already talked. I'll address that again later. I think it's not a big deal, but James Karinchak did have the one and only pitch clock violation I saw. Maybe there was another one, but I think that's all I saw. But it wasn't all his fault. He asked for a new baseball from the umpire. He got one that's supposed to reset the clock. It did not. And he was like a second away from getting ready in his windup anyway. So he was close. I'm not going to even get into his box score or however he pitched because it doesn't matter. He did come back to strike that guy out, by the way, that he did get the automatic ball called on him for the pitch clock violation. But I did notice Karinchak still went through his normal routine of flipping the ball from his hand to his glove. He didn't touch his hair a ton. He did like once or twice that I saw. Like, I'm not trying to read into this too much, but overall he was fine and he pitched well. He got a couple strikeouts, yada, yada. So, only one of those things happened and it really wasn't totally his fault. The pitch clock is supposed to reset if he asks for a new baseball. I wonder if that's like a little loophole. You know how often pitchers ask for a new baseball? Because obviously we know Major League Baseball has a hard time giving consistent baseballs to the games from day to day, and some of them have less grip than others for pitchers. I wonder if the inefficiency that can be exploited is asking for a new baseball because the pitcher.
I think they've limited it. I think they've said there's only so many times you can ask for.
Well, you can't like do it like 2 days in a row or like two balls in a row. But
I think like even a team can only do so many. The same way like a catcher can only hold the ball for so long.
If you are right, but if you are strategic about it, let's say like you're in an at bat with a guy and it's like 1-2 or 2-1. You do, and you don't want to. You're not sure what you want to throw. You want to think about things a little bit. You just say, I want a new ball. And instead of, rushing yourself and having to pitch and risk going to 3-1 on a batter, you get a new ball, the clock resets, you rub down the ball, yada, yada. I don't know. It's just one of those things you can do like once in the bat because it happens a lot as it is. So it could be something to watch as an exploit, maybe. I don't know. I'd be interested to see if it does.
And listen, I just want to take this moment here before we throw the break to two things. One, to let people know I'm seeing on here that Justin's out here favoriting images of people hanging out with Grady Sizemore on my Twitter, and it's just letting me know that.
What?
Justin L. Oh no, it's that you follow someone who posted a comment with a Grady Sizemore picture on over here, where I'm just like, it wasn't that you liked it; it was that it's someone you follow is posting Grady Sizemore images from this year.
Where? I didn't even see that.
Corey,
I follow them.
Yeah, it says you follow them.
Okay. I didn't see those.
Yeah. You there's an updated picture of Grady Sizemore, who I agree looks like he has an age. Just to continue our shout out to anyone who want to help us get in contact with Grady Sizemore. He is our white whale. We will continue to chase him as huge fans of his podcast. And two, just to say, like, listen, I hopped on Twitter for all of 3 minutes and hopped off because everyone was going crazy for Cocoa Puffs about Zach Plesac. No matter how you feel, listen, it's very much how you feel, because if you don't like him, this was just confirmation bias. People tend to forget, like, remember last year when people were like, oh, Shane Bieber, what's wrong with him? He's not, it's pitchers work on different things. Plesac hasn't had a lot of starts since his injury. He wasn't good last year. He was fine the year before that, and he was really good the year before that. So he's had one bad year in the last 3 and one average year and one great year. No big decisions are based off spring training. Listen, Bobby Bradley and Logan Allen are no longer with this team, and they were the last 2 great spring training performance stories, the best shape of their lives things. Spring training over performance only really matters, in my opinion, with the very young, the guys who are, probably not even slated to make the roster, or the guys like a Stephen Kwan, where if they make a trade for someone like Austin Meadows, he's probably doesn't break camp with the team. Like, that's the importance for them deciding how comfortable they feel running with a young guy or a player who's playing against competition they haven't really faced. Pitchers are working on stuff. Zach Plesac's probably not out there amped up or, all the way up to where he should be, and he's working on various things. We've seen Shane Bieber mess around with new pitches during this time of year. So I just want to do the whole thing where I'm like, one of the reasons I hate spring training, I think, is because of spring training overreaction season. And it's literally been from game one. So I just want to sit back and be like, let's see what happens over the course of an entire spring training. Let's see what happens when the games actually matter before we go a little crazy here.
Yeah, I agree. Don't overreact is kind of the whole start to things. Like, worry about guys who like have velocity drops, and especially don't worry about guys who have velocity drops early on. Like Shane Bieber struggled velocity wise all year last year for the most part, and he obviously the Guardian spring training broadcast, for whatever reason, isn't allowed to have their velocities on there. I'm not sure where that started, why that is, but other ones have. So like if it's late in spring training and the guy is like throwing like 2 or 3 miles an hour slower than normal, yeah, that would be a concern. But like tomorrow, not a big deal. So yeah, don't overreact to those sorts of things. And as long as guys are healthy and getting their at bats and getting their reps, I think it'll be fine. So, like if Zach Plesac's giving up 6 runs and is only facing like 5 or 6 batters, whatever it is, in the last week of spring training, then yeah, that's probably a problem, but not on February 25th or 26th.
Why don't we take a quick break here, come back, kind of wrap up the show with some more of the talk about spring training in general and just some more things that are happening around baseball on today's Locked On Guardians. So what do you want us to tackle next now that I've been the party pooper? And again, I feel like my big statement is I just want to be like, I know people got mad when I was like, hey, let's not overreact to these injuries. So apparently I'm the not overreact guy, but I just want to state again, like spring training's weird. The great spring training break. I mean, when is the last time one of these like huge spring training breakout stories, Kevin Mitchell on his bike? I can go back to when I was a kid. Even now where it's like none of those end up working out. So,
well, I mean, you have situations like Stephen Kwan last year played his butt off to make the team.
Yes.
There's things like that.
He wasn't the story of camp. That's the thing. Like he was more of a, was he not?
Really? I mean, he wasn't the story of camp? I think he was.
I think last year's camp, the articles were Bobby Bradley in his best shape of his life. And
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I guess. But that and the Jose Ramirez contract were like the big deals last year.
Yeah, but it's like,
I think Kwan
was like the under the radar thing to me. Like he was like people who really follow it knew, but like I think for the general sphere, like the people who sometimes say that our show is too analytical focused, we're like, I don't think we've used a single analytic today, but like to those people who think we talk too many numbers, I don't think Steve Kwan was the story last year.
Well, comment and let us know, because I think him and Jose were the 2 biggest stories of last spring training for sure.
I felt like it was like Shane Bieber stuff. What's up with Shane Bieber?
Well, that was too.
And I felt like Kwan was a little bit further down the line, but I might have also just been dealing with all the anger every time an outfielder didn't come to Cleveland. So my view can be shaded by having done this show and you also just the general Cleveland anger.
You also don't watch spring training baseball, so maybe you didn't know. Last thing we should touch on today is I think just who made the most of opportunities. So we don't want to overreact to any one spring training performance, but it's when young guys, especially guys who are trying on the bubble of the roster, whether they're major leaguers, like when Touki Toussaint pitches, we're going to talk about that, things like that, and prospects who play in spring training, making the most of opportunities, I think is one thing. Like you're there to open eyes and let coaches know you're ready to help the team out. So not necessarily reacting to any stats or anybody's individual at bats, but just who made the most of their opportunities for their playing time. Like, Tito told Andre Nahh that even though Tyler Freeman went like over 3 on Saturday and Gabriel Arias had 2 hits, he said, I thought Freeman swung the bat as well as anybody, including Arias, who had 2 hits. Well, there you go. He didn't have a hit in the box score, but coaches took notice of Tyler Freeman. They already know he is, but they're looking at how the quality of these guys at bats and how they're doing. Gabriel Arias did have 2 hits. These guys are battling for playing time when it comes to the major league roster, when it comes to April, and both could make the team. Maybe only one makes the team. So those 2 guys, when they're given opportunities, they want to do something good. And in the box score, Arias had 2 hits. Freeman did not, but Tito said they both had good at bats. So those are things you're not going to see show up. The other guy I would say, Richie Palacios, he had a couple hits on Sunday. He might be a little more, might have his timing down a little more than most guys because he played in winter ball. He had no break, or he did have a break, and then he played at the end of January. So he's kind of ready to go. So he looked good. David Fry had a home run, just as I had written my scouting report on him, which was hilarious. I just posted on Twitter, and he hit a home run. So he's a guy who is looking to make a major league opportunity for himself. So him hitting a home run, that was good timing as well. And again, taking advantage. It was Jeff's cat did not take advantage of the opportunity. She jumped and fell to the floor. That is unfortunate.
Graceful at all.
That is unfortunate. Hunter Gaddis looked good. His changeup looked like it was in midseason form. It looked like he pitched like a guy who could be an impact reliever, which I thought was fun. Side note there. Angel Martinez, Jeff, hit a home run. I have no idea who the home run came off against, but it was a swing on a ball that he should not have gotten the barrel on, but somehow he did. And I was like, wow, that's great. It might have been an Arizona hated home run because of the weather and the that kind of stuff. I don't care. Whatever. Tim Herron threw the crap out of the baseball. Everyone on Twitter took notice of that. That is Locked On Guardians guest Tim Herron, if you haven't listened to that podcast. So that was cool. Mike Caprice, hey, my guy, Mike Caprice, a double on Saturday and a home run on Sunday. Again, probably hit a home run off a guy who's going to be bagging groceries next week, but he hit the ball hard 2 times at the times to the plate. So, and he's there as an NRI. So, not a bad thing.
I think, listening to you talk about it, it's like, I'm definitely, Prees has all the momentum in the world after last year, and it wants to give the Guardians a really hard decision to make. But I think the thing that I was most intrigued by there was is Gaddis, because I think you and I both think that he could be another bullpen weapon. So it's like, if he doesn't really need a third pitch with the changeup and the fastball. He has other stuff. It's like those two alone could make him a pretty effective reliever. And that changeup might be the best changeup just in Cleveland's majors to minors.
Yeah,
he's gonna challenge Eli Morgan.
Besides Eli, yeah, for sure.
Go ahead.
Xavier Curry pitched well too, and I just want to say before we get out of here, we're going to wrap things up with the shorter show today because we have another surprise guest coming. Locked On Guardians Fantasy League. We had a lot of people responding to this, more than I expected. So if you have already been interested, send me a message on Twitter or tweet at me if you're interested, or comment again on this episode. I will respond with the link and I'll get it set up. We had a lot of interest. So it's going to be a roto league. There's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I'll get back to some of you with the link who I already know are interested, and I'll respond. If you already commented on it, either on Twitter or on YouTube, I'll go back and find it and respond with the link. So just be on the lookout for that.
And I want to thank you for listening, rating, and reviewing. No after show on this one today. Like I said, we're gonna double book it. We're gonna be back to back. So we thank you all for being a part of the Locked On Guardians family / team as we get ready for another run to the postseason. And we'll end this one the way we always do. Go, Guardians, go.